Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of TEDXcellence, the show in which I attempt to be educated by enlightened professionals and experts of dubious credibility. Hello, everyone. Hope you're all having a good Sunday. I hope you are all safe and well. If you're not well, please get well soon. Before we get into the big stuff, generosity. You guys, I don't know what to tell you. I really do appreciate it. Before the stream, point curation, Tommy Wiseau, you are carrying me apart, Lisa. Yeah, it's hard to come up with a clever phrase for the thumbnail using the word Karen, so I did what I could. The gayest person on YouTube, thank you so much for today's admission to see Scribe Live. Yes, high ticket costs. That's my game. Yeah. I'm overcharging ticket prices. Boy, oh boy, if only I was in that racket. Thank you, tall person. Hoy, all just got home from work and can watch this live. Yay! Happy Lemonade Day, everybody. Well, funny you should say that because all I do around here is take lemons and try to turn them into lemonade of constant mental torture. Let's see. So what is the official title of today's presentation? Well, it is Reimagining Masculinity. Reimagining Masculinity. All right. And our speaker is one Karen Brody. I have no idea who Karen Brody is or what she does. I rarely look up the bona fides of the speakers on here because unless they make their backgrounds or education or their professions part of their argument, it really doesn't mean much to me. It's interesting to find out after the fact, maybe. But if they don't use it in context, I don't really care because I interrogate the point, not the person. That's my code of conduct, mostly. But before we get into all the fun that will be given to us by Karen, let's say hello to those of you who have decided to join me live this morning from my Corona bunker on the moon with Dog Cat Fox and a Pepperjack ready to go. Old Guy Gamer, hello. Sean Hooley, hello. Gunfox61, hello. Green Death, hello. Point Curation, hello. The gayest person on YouTube, hello. Twisted Skipster, hello. Tall Person, hello. Mike R, hello. Somnambule Nation, hello. Cannibalistic Wizard, hello. Molly Mags 53, hello. Gunnar Anderson, hello. Steve Luzon, hello. Check Your Logic, hello. Spider-Man, hello. Erica Grunstadter, hello. Non-Vitae Rex, hello. Big Assassin 80, hello. Pink Hollow the Driving Ape Man, hello. And the chat jumped because it does that. Elish Norn, hello. The Luke Skywalker 2, hello. Mike Savage, Blarg. No Room for Squares, hello. Kiaxa, hello. Dectran, hello. Angela Ariaga, hello. Lucifer Never Changes, hello. Hakatus Maximus, hello. This is Kyle, thank you so much. Hello, chat people and scribbles. Hello, Kyle. Renovaccio, hello. Atheist Icon, hello. And thank you, Pinkal, the Driving Ape Man, for the popcorn. Yes, get your popcorn ready. It's going to be something. I'm almost sure of it. By the way, I make no guarantees. I'm not liable for any lack of entertainment on your part. That's the devil's in the details. Nothing for you here. Hello. That one servant of Satania. Hello. Functional. Hello. Mr. Hugh. Hello. The one-ton hammer. Hello. Haywire of Alba. Feskerma. Or something. Cultist 4. Hello. Faithless. Hello. All You Need. Hello. Evil Clipazine. Hello. Professor Chaos. Hello. Loki Lycan. Hello. And I think that's everybody. Oh. Jormungandr. Jormungandr. Probably butchering that, but I'm learning Scottish Gaelic. I'm not learning Norse quite yet, so give me some time. Anyway, all right, guys, per usual, I'm going to start off with a little bit of sound test. You guys tell me that you can hear it to make sure that I've got the audio set up. I did a little bit of manipulating of the audio to take out the background noise and emphasize the voice of our speaker, because that's what I do around here. I use my platform to raise up the voices of other people in conjunction with my own. And Sarjim, Chicago Mike, Alyssa Doesn't Lie, hello. Here we go.
Hi, I'm Karen Brody.
Well, hi, Karen Brody. You guys all hear that? Jesse DeFennick Fox, hello. I'm Karen Brody. Sounds good, Scribe. All good, Big Assassin says. Sounds fucking great. All right. If it does get a little loud, guys, let me know. I'll ratchet it down. I think I might have boosted it just a smidge higher than I should have, but I didn't really listen to much of what her volume was, so maybe we're okay. Here we go.
And I have an unusual profession. I'm what I call a man coach.
Mm-hmm. A man coach. I cannot help but wonder if a man stepped out on a stage and announced to the audience, I have an unusual profession. I'm a woman coach. I wonder what kind of reception that man would get in this day and age.
I teach men to claim a power that can be devoted to honoring themselves and creating more mutually fulfilling relationships, especially with women.
Yes, because, by default, men have no idea how to, quote unquote, honor themselves, nor establish relationships with women. They just don't know. It's not part of their makeup. They completely lack that ability. Well, I'm glad Karen is here to make up for what I lack. Okay. Now, I'm not going to say anything. I'm going to be a gentleman.
Often, when I share what I do socially with women, I get condescending responses like these. Wow, how great of you. Men really need it. Those poor things. They really have no one to talk to.
Oh, I thought you were going to, mimic my kind of condescension. But, okay, you get condescending responses from women? All right, interesting.
You're an angel to do that work. Wow, your work is really cut out for you, girl.
Girl!
When women feel entitled to subtly bash men in my presence, it's akin to telling the coach of a football team that he's got a bunch of weak, untalented players.
Oh my God, are you coming to the defense of men? But then, if they weren't untalented, why do they need you to teach them how to honor themselves and establish relationships with women? I'm almost like, oh, this person is not a jerk. But then I think for a second.
It really doesn't play well with me. In fact, it's tempting to give these women a piece of my mind and educate them about what I know about men. Believe me, I wasn't always this way.
Okay, now let's say, all right. I made a mention of this on Lords of the Night the other night. Going into certain things with some preconceived notions, my unconscious bias making itself conscious. Okay, all right. Maybe we do have an advocate for men's health. If we do, I am more than happy to listen to it. It'd be a pleasant surprise. So let's find out.
There was a time in my life when I was really angry with men. I didn't trust that they were necessarily good, and I blamed them for the ills of the world.
Well, that would be a very counterproductive way to look at the world. Yes. Yes, it would be. All right. Noted.
Not because I was a hateful person or what we call a radical feminist.
Oh, no, of course not. Then why?
But because, like a lot of women, I had been hurt by men emotionally and sexually, and that pain was hidden behind my anger.
Well, okay, you'd been hurt by individuals. I mean, they may have also been men, but they were individual people. That's really something. And we're not, don't get me wrong, most of us are not immune to the idea of categorizing people in that sort of common denominator way. I understand. But the adult perspective, or the more, mature perspective, is to understand that individuals make individual choices, and that the pain that may befall us from people that share certain attributes does not then make that attribute inherently toxic, to use a word. Thank you, Hawkins Maximus. Don't fake me out. Don't give me hope. Well, again, like I say, I've become so wary. I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. So, but who knows? Like I say, maybe this is a good one. A good one of those, one of those women. I'm just kidding.
As you can imagine, when I was guided to coach and empower men and to help them heal their sexual shame, I wasn't exactly your most likely candidate.
Heal their sexual shame. Okay, and I know I've kind of alluded to this previously. She's coming to the defense of men, but positioning herself as someone who needs to fix men because of inherent flaws that she's stating. Right? Am I wrong there?
In fact, I felt terrified. It didn't make a lot of sense, and yet it made perfect sense in that everything I had against men that was unresolved would be called into the light to be healed.
So you were doing this for you?
Working with men and hearing firsthand their moving stories of the struggles they endured to become men and continued to endure to be men healed me of my separation from the masculine.
Okay. So I know I'm being cynical. I'm being presumptuous. This is all about you again?
My compassion for men came alive and exploded.
Your compassion for men exploded, you say? I know I'm being dirty.
My clients' stories changed me in a way that I hope this talk will change you.
Oh, I'm hoping.
By inspiring you to reimagine the way you see and relate to men and masculinity in our world.
All right. I am open to hearing how you wish to reimagine masculinity, which obviously needs reimagining because it's inherently flawed and requires your guidance to be better. Your guidance as a woman who has never known and will never know what it is to be a man. Got it.
For hundreds of years, men had predetermined roles. They were soldiers, tradesmen, corporate and household leaders.
And they did all of that for just themselves. There were no other considerations in why they would make those sacrifices, right?
But as those roles either disappear or blur in the face of changes in the workplace and women's emerging power in the world, both young and middle-aged men are grappling with what exactly it means to be a man.
Yeah, I mean, all those frontline soldier spots being taken up by women, men just don't know what to do with themselves when it comes to defending their homes and their country. I don't know. Thank you, Hawkins Maximus. Is she an abuse counselor? I'm wary here. I have no idea. I don't know. I take the speakers as they present. Whatever they present is whatever I get to work with, let's say.
And what their purpose in the world is now to be.
It's the same purpose as it was before. Women are not taking the place of fathers when you have a two-parent relationship. They're just not. The dynamic of the male role model for children or the breadwinner, etc. Sure, either or of these parents can function in that fashion, mechanically speaking. But ultimately, men serve a purpose just as women serve different purposes instinctually. That hasn't changed. I mean, the window dressing may have changed, but the mannequins underneath haven't, if you get my drift in that very bizarre metaphor I just came up with.
Add that men increasingly feel shame for the crimes of their gender.
The crimes of their gender. The crimes of their gender. Well, okay, let's stipulate for a moment that a gender can be guilty of crimes. Why would men be feeling ashamed right now? What possible social movements or ideologies might be pushing shame onto men for the crimes of their gender? I know I'm being a little aggressive here. I don't know where she's going with this, but at the same time, the notion by itself is a little grating. Thank you, sorry, Jim. I was finally stimulated Friday to so have part of my government cheese. Oh, well, thank you, Jim. That's very generous of you. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Trump bucks all the way down.
And live with a painful sense of being wrong for being born the sex that they were born.
Yes, and isn't original sin kind of a destructive concept? Isn't it a very, very unproductive notion to live under that kind of cloud your entire life? You're going to tell us that it's not true, right? I mean, your supportive men will say that men are not guilty simply for being men. I hope.
Well, the Me Too movement was intended to heal women. It ripped open the masculine collective wound wide open.
The masculine collective wound. Okay.
Leaving many men reeling from a sense of hopelessness about the future of men.
I don't know about the hopelessness of the future of men, but the hopelessness of trying to interact with women without being seen and or accused of wrongdoing simply for doing so. I mean, that's my perspective as a man, but then what do I know? I mean, Karen's here to teach me how to honor myself and establish relationships with women, because obviously I have no idea how to do either.
How many men here in this audience got messaging throughout your lives that men or masculinity is essentially bad?
Well, I raised my hand. I don't know about throughout my life, but certainly since about 2013 and forward, with the explosion of social media and the constant barrage of toxic masculinity being thrown around, and Me Too making every man guilty of, well, being a man. So sure, maybe not my entire life, but at least in the last 6 or 7 years.
Yeah, it's actually really, really common.
I'm wondering, is there actually an audience there? I mean, I don't hear any incidental noises, and maybe there's no microphones to pick it up, like coughing or movement or anything else. I'm wondering if this is a coronavirus presentation where it's basically an empty room and we just have an applause track or something. Usually these TEDx talks and TED Talks will have a wide shot that at least shows some of the audience. This is an incidental thing. It probably means nothing, but I'm just kind of curious for the sake of the presentation. Thank you, Hocketus Maximus. I feel like she's sort of right, but wording it awfully. I know a lot of young guys who have no idea what to do with themselves, so they exit society. Okay, fair enough. Fair enough, especially if you're growing up in this time. I mean, my perspective is still rooted for the majority in the 80s and 90s and the early 2000s. I didn't have to grow up under this cloud of suspicion and toxicity accusations. So sure, I don't have the perspective of trying to find my sense of self under these particular pressures. I still experience a lot of doubt and sort of, I don't know, subcutaneous fear from the Me Too movement, etc., as to what happens if I happen to interact with someone in a way they decide is inappropriate. And I've experienced some of that in my social life in the past, unfortunately, with the whole social justice movement. But sure, it is more difficult probably these days to suss out what is or is not quote unquote correct behavior if you happen to be male. I'll stipulate to that.
And how many of you felt unfairly judged as men in ways that harmed your relationships with others?
Well, yes, I too have felt like I've been damaged, or that I've been made to feel bad or scared out of approaching people. Sure, I think all men have experienced that, which is why when you use phrases like the collective wound and the crimes of men and so on, or the crimes of the gender, I get very wary and dubious of your actual intentions, because I've been barraged with a constant stream of you are bad for being what you are and not for what you do.
If you think this crisis for men that I speak of isn't significant, I can tell you that I've made a 20-year career out of working with men who are caught in this painful, confusing limbo where they don't have a sense of their own human value or the appropriate way to fulfill their roles as husbands, fathers, and stewards of the planet in this current time.
Okay, yes, struggling with one's purpose or one's goals in life, or how to be a good father, how to be a good man, etc. These are not new struggles for men. Of course, on the flip side, same goes for women, and in the collective sense, same goes for people trying to find your place in the world. But sure, especially with the way that sexual politics are playing out in the last several years, men have probably got the shorter end of the stick.
Men have been the dominant sex since the dawn of mankind.
Really? Really? I mean, sort of instinctually, sure, but there are more women on the planet than men. And a lot of the things that men do, a lot of the motivations behind their actions and decisions are either to A, impress women, or B, protect women, or C, both of the above. So, okay.
But that reality is shifting so quickly and so forcefully, it's putting men in a position that they have no idea how to navigate.
Yes, we are all scared of women in power, especially when they have the power over our futures, our careers, and even our freedom. If we look sideways at the wrong one and they decide to accuse us of some horrific crime that we didn't actually commit, but is now a real thing under Me Too and Time's Up, etc. I know, I'm just cynical.
Women are now favored over men in our Western workplaces, where skills such as empathy and the capacity to form bonds are desired over physical strength, risk-taking, and dominant behavior.
Yes, men have no capacity for empathy or for making bonds with people. They have no ability to do this. There are no leaders. There are no counselors amongst men. They just don't possess these abilities. Only women have these things. That's why they are favored. It's not out of fear of being accused of sexism by not favoring women or anything like that, as imposed by things like Me Too or feminism. No, not at all.
In one generation, young men have gone from 61% of college degree recipients to just 39%.
And every time such a statistic is brought up, I have to ask the question, women are getting more college degrees in what subjects? I mean, I'll be the first to admit, I have a college degree in English. It doesn't mean much. It doesn't count for much. At best, unless I'm going into an educational position or some kind of journalistic position, which I didn't even get a journalistic degree, but whatever, at best, it is a rubber stamp to an employer that, yes, this person can put forward the effort to achieve a long-term goal. That's about as much as an English degree gets you in the wonderful world of work. So I don't put much stock in it. But the percentage of women getting college degrees versus men, again, I have to ask, degrees in what subjects? Are those degrees going to commend them to advantageous positions in the workplace? Or are they just college degrees in very, very basic or even unuseful subjects like social science or gender studies? I have to ask. That percentage, that disparity of college degrees does not impress me, I'm afraid to say.
With women taking the lead.
Taking the lead in college degrees. Sure. What is the quality? What is the utility of those degrees?
Women in their 20s in the United States now out-earn men in the same age group.
Really? Because all I hear about is pay disparity. All I hear about is the wage gap. All I hear about is how women are paid less than men reflexively, no matter what. So, okay, I mean, I'll take you at your word, but there's a whole lot of people out there telling me the exact opposite.
This leaves men who once shaped their futures around the heroic idea of being a breadwinner to asking themselves, what is my value here?
Yeah, and who's posing that question to them? Themselves? Or everyone else telling them how useless they are, how unnecessary they are, how women don't need men anymore because they are so powerful, except for the fact that they're so mistreated that they need special treatment in order to compensate for what men are doing to them. Starting to rant here a little bit. I'm not quite sure where she's going, because on the one hand, she sounds like she's trying to empathize with the position of men in the current year, and yet she's promoting a whole bunch of ideas that make men seem like they are inherently flawed or don't know what to do with themselves or can't take care of themselves or need women to guide them. I wonder why she might be promoting that notion, given her chosen profession.
If I'm not needed or favored in the workplace, and my wife and family can survive without me, what is my human purpose?
Well, maybe that'll explain the increase in suicide rates among men. I don't know. I mean, the more you make men feel worthless and pointless and powerless and like they can't do anything right, that they're inherently flawed, that they constantly have to feel shame for the crimes of their gender. Yeah, I can kind of empathize with men feeling that way. Oh, wait, I empathize. I can't empathize. I'm a man.
Not only are men being pushed out of the roles they felt they belonged in, imagine growing up with these messages. Your dad is no good.
Okay, first off, are men actually being pushed out of the roles they're used to? I mean, generally speaking, are men no longer breadwinners? Are men no longer soldiers? Are men no longer building things, designing things, etc.? Because all I hear constantly is the dominance of men suppressing and oppressing women. That the patriarchy is controlling everything and is, of course, damaging to both women and men, because men don't even know or have any idea how to recognize the damage they're doing to themselves with their patriarchal ideology. I don't know. I'm getting some conflicting messages from both our speaker and all of the zeitgeist that I've been exposed to for the last 3 or 4 years.
Men are killers. Men rape. Men wage war. The toxic masculine is at the center of the world's problems.
Yes, those are the accusations and the stereotypes that are constantly being dropped on the shoulders of men, no matter who they are. They are guilty for being what they are because of those stereotypes. Yes. So now you're going to tell us that that is not inherently true, right? I hope, please.
Much of this may in fact be true.
Oh, what? Oh, come on. Much of this may in fact be true. Men are rapists. Men are killers. Men are warmongers. I mean, that might be true, but, oh, Christ, really? We're only halfway through this. She got my hopes up in the first few minutes, honestly. You know, maybe it was a little misguided, but at least she was recognizing the injustice, for lack of a better word, of the current through line in our social media and popular culture. But that there, thank you, Hocketus Maximus. Men are still there, but they are being crapped on for being there, and that's causing a lot of these issues. Yeah, I mean, okay. I will let our speaker continue to speak. I'll have things to say later, obviously, and over the course of the video.
But if we keep reinforcing these messages that masculinity is intrinsically bad, men don't have a healing chance.
You just reinforced that message. You just listed off the worst possible crimes that men, or dare I say human beings, can commit, but you attributed them to men, and then you said, while much of that may be true, that they are killers and rapists and warmongers, etc. If you're not going to at least admit to the notion that being a man is not inherently a flaw, that being a man is not inherently a crime, how can you possibly, with any kind of integrity, say that you're out there defending men? Men are not a monolith. They are not a collective. If they were, why was I beaten up as a kid? Why was I made fun of? I mean, I was male, right? So there should have been no disparity in treatment between me and the other guy who was rubbing my face in the dirt, who's calling me names, making me feel small and useless and weak in order to make himself feel big because he was arrogant, because he was insecure. And by the way, obviously, arrogance and insecurity are only possessed by men. Never on the history of the entire planet has a woman belittled another woman for the sake of their own ego or to make a point, etc. I could go on, and I will, but here we go.
And they will not evolve to lead our world with strength, vision, and courage.
Yes, because prior to this, guys, men have never led our world with strength, vision, and courage. They don't know how to do it. They just don't know. If we don't do something now, those men won't evolve. Those troglodytes. Gosh. We need to help men. They don't know how to help themselves. They can't empathize. They can't make connections. They can't establish relationships. They need women to guide them out of the darkness of being masculine.
I would argue that a healthy masculine man is purpose-driven by nature and driven to do good.
Like protect their loved ones, raise their families, provide for those that they care about. Like that, you know? You mean like something that's just completely alien to them? Maybe?
Men desire to serve and to protect.
Yeah, you're right. They do. They do. Okay, you got me. I agree. And so?
However, without a healthy sense of himself, a man can fall prey to porn or drug addiction, depression, disconnection, or even violence.
Oh. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Hogatus Maximus, I believe she wants to help, but this is so condescending at this point. This sounds very Victorian to me. Freezing lady. I've said this many, many times before. The people that ultimately sound like they are doing bad, or if you're trying to approach it from sort of an objective viewpoint, sound like they're completely off base. It's always difficult for me, without some more information, to believe that they're being overtly or intentionally malicious in what they're doing. So yes, I agree. I think in her mind and her perspective, she is attempting to do good. But all she is doing here is, in the one hand, saying we need to not categorize men as inherently bad. But on the opposite hand, she's saying at the exact same time the contradictory, that men are inherently bad. That if they don't have a guiding hand, because men can't take care of themselves, they will descend into porn and drug addiction and violence, because all of these evils are just waiting just under the surface. And without the, I guess, inherent purity and wisdom of women to keep these things in check, because men obviously can't do that by themselves, all of these evils will be released like some kind of Pandora's box. Because as you know, men are naturally murderers, warmongers. Okay.
The extreme is indicative. Look at the number of young shooters in the United States.
Oh, no.
These are all boys.
Yeah, they're all boys. So that means that all boys are inherently bad. Never has a woman committed murder, either in a mass sense or in a long-term sense. There's never been women who have taken the opposite tact, right? There's never been women who have, over the course of many years, poisoned people in hospitals, murdered elderly people at retirement homes over the course of years. There's never been female mass shooters, obviously. Now, men and women kill lots of people when they are insane in very different ways. I will grant you that. Yes, congratulations.
With absent or negative masculine role models who fail to connect or create meaningful relationships with others.
Yes, every serial killer, every mass murderer completely lacked a positive male role model. You're right. All of the dads of all of the teenagers or all of the grown men who ever went on to do horrible things, all of them were bad parents and bad people. All of them. It's the father's fault.
We need powerfully directed boys and men, armed with love, to bring about the changes that are good for relationships, families, and the planet.
Because men inherently lack the ability to love. They just don't need it. We need those kind of men, which are so rare, so very, very rare.
But we have to start with seeing men as intrinsically good.
But really? Really? Well, I don't disagree. Well, here's the thing. Okay, no. Hold on. Let me back up a second. No, men are not intrinsically good. Being a man is a neutral state. It means nothing. It says nothing of the character of the individual. I've made this comparison a dozen times in the past. A long-haired man who is a carpenter. Am I talking about Jesus Christ? Or am I talking about serial killer Israel Keys? None of those elements determine the character of the individual. Men are not intrinsically good. Men are not intrinsically bad. Men are simply men. Either you take them on as individual people, or you are doing them a disservice by making assumptions on the basis of something that has absolutely no determinative value of the individual. So, are you operating on stereotypes towards men or not? Because a positive stereotype towards men is no less a stereotype towards men. Thank you again, Hakatus Maximus. Wait. Maybe this talk is for feminists and she's using their points to shift them over to her side. It would make sense. She has explicitly, at points in this talk, addressed men in the audience, even though I am suspicious there actually is an audience, but that's beside the point. So she is speaking to men in this. Now, admittedly, you can have male feminists. It's true. You can. Okay.
To inspire this positive evolution. A healthy masculine man who feels good about his role in the world and his gender is not a rapist or a killer.
Even though that might be mostly true, right? Even though you've already affirmed that being a rapist, being a killer, being a warmonger is probably true to some extent. Aside from that. Thank you, Manic, for the Dog Cat Fox saying hiya. Hiya, Dog Cat Fox. Oh, Dog Cat Fox. I could use cuddles right now. This is really putting me in a mood.
Nor does he turn a blind eye to the suffering of others.
Doesn't he? Because, okay.
He's a protector and a guardian for the feminine and for all of life on this planet.
I mean, I hate to argue against an effective compliment, but again, no. Being a man does not determine anything inherently. On the average, masculinity, as defined by instinct and society, is, yes, about protecting and providing and seeing to those that you consider part of your family or your tribe. It's true. We have these sort of instinctual chemical reflexes. Yes. But you have to distinguish between instincts and reflexes and just making blanket statements about the nature of men. Give them the benefit of the doubt. I guess this is the message here. Men are men, but they are also individuals. To assess them all on the basis of one general stereotype that they are evil or that they are inherently good is not healthy. Just admit that there are certain reflexes that are common in men, and accepting that, give them their actions the benefit of the doubt unless or until there is uncontrovertible evidence that they have done wrong. or that they've done completely good. That's really it. You know, don't make assumptions about the quality of someone's character. The nature of their actions, who knows? But the quality of their character is up to the individual and is not determined by their gender.
Reimagining men is not some global dream. It's a critical initiative because we need power-positive men in the world. We can't reverse the changes that have given opportunities and growing power to women.
Yeah, but you could stop vilifying men. Society could stop defaulting to vilifying men, dismissing men, mansplaining, etc. That anything that a man does that happens to irritate or contradict a woman is inherently evil, wrong, incorrect behavior, etc. Now, maybe that's what she's about to say. I don't know. I'm kind of yelling into the wind of the general zeitgeist right now.
Nor would we want to. But we can get behind men at this key juncture in their evolution to find their way toward a new masculine paradigm.
Again, the implication that men are, despite all her other rhetoric, inherently flawed and need to evolve. Is there any possibility that women are not perfect? Is she going to allow for the notion that people in general need to evolve? Why is it just men that need to evolve? Why are men inherently lowly beasts that need to come up to the level of what? Women? Because women are already there? Because of their inherent empathy, their inherent relationship building? Those things that men entirely lack and thus need to evolve? I'm getting a lot of mixed messages here.
Reimagining the masculine begins with how you see the man sitting next to you, with how you gaze upon the man in your bed who fathered your children. It begins with messages you impart to your son about what it actually means to be a good man in a world that will tell him in so many ways that his gender is not good.
In so many ways, like this presentation, maybe she is writing the line. Maybe she's trying to preach to an already zealotrous choir. I don't know. It's difficult for me to tell who this is for. Because on the one hand, she's seemingly offering empathy and sympathy to men and encouraging people not to look at them as inherent monsters. And yet she keeps telling us that men are inherently flawed and they need guidance to evolve. So is this a transitory, transitional sort of talk to radical feminists to get them to lighten up? Maybe. I don't know. I'm not a radical feminist, so I don't know what effect that would have on someone that's that dyed in the wool. But just listening to it as me, it's not making a whole lot of sense.
There is no doubt that men have hurt women and children by way of abuse and discrimination.
Uh-huh.
And yes, men have killed.
Are you going to admit that women have killed? Women have hurt their families. Women have discriminated. Are you going to admit that these attributes, these actions, these beliefs are not inherent to men, but can be inherent to individual people? If you're not going to, if you're saying don't discriminate against men for being these terrible things, why are you not allowing for the reality that they are not inherent to men?
And they have created wars.
And no woman has ever instigated a war before, either directly or from behind the man that seeks to protect them.
But if we are to inspire men to greatness,
because men don't know how to be great as it is,
and true acts of love,
because men don't know how to commit true acts of love,
we have to reimagine them as kings.
Because right now, really, we just think of them as paupers.
Rather than as criminals.
You've already imagined them as criminals by saying that they cannot love, that they cannot form connections. You've already admitted that they're criminals by kind of shrugging your shoulders. It's like, well, we may think of men as killers and rapists and warmongers, and while that may be true to some extent,
as our partners and lovers, rather than our enemies.
Because women never look at their men as partners and lovers? What?
It's great to get inspired around an idea. And undoubtedly, this topic inspires me tremendously. But
oh, I can see that it inspires you. You built your whole career around it, as far as I can tell. So you have a vested interest in being inspired by this.
Let's bring this down to the intimate, actionable level for every one of us today.
Every one of us? Okay.
How do we go home tonight and advocate for our men?
Our men. How do we advocate for our men? Okay, assuming she's talking to the women in the audience right now, because, I mean, sure, there could be men in the audience who are married to men. Sure, either way. How do we advocate for our men? How about, how do I advocate for my husband, my son, the people, the individuals that are in my life who happen to be men? Why do I have to put them all into one basket and assume a common flaw or a common necessity? Can't I take a look at people individually, absent making assumptions on the basis of non-determinative characteristics like gender and race and orientation? Am I not allowed to do that?
How do we empower the masculine in a real and true way to do good?
By not assuming an inherent flaw in them, by not assuming inherent criminality in masculinity, by not assuming an inherent toxicity in masculinity, by not assuming that being a man is a flaw in need of fixing.
And how do we initiate a deep healing of our own pain as women where it concerns men and their masculinity?
By looking at men as individuals and not as a collective. By taking each person on their own individual merits and not making assumptions about the quality of their character by the shape of their genitals. Maybe.
First, we've got to stop the violence against all the men in our personal lives.
We've got to stop the violence against all the men in our personal lives? Yes, I agree. All of the women who are physically abusing or mentally abusing men, please stop. All of the women who are physically abusing or mentally abusing their sons, please stop. I'm on board with that notion.
We've got to stop locking them out of our hearts and bodies as if they were perpetrators or sexual perverts.
Okay, well now, that's an accusation against women, as though all women inherently look at men the way that you say you used to look at men. So you're still operating on an assumptive stereotype. Okay. Well, I mean, it's a kind of gender equality.
And we have to stop laughing at the stereotypical jokes that seem to suggest that men are incompetent or untrustworthy.
I don't know about jokes, but throughout this entire talk, you have perpetuated the notion that men are inherently flawed, that they are de-evolved humans who need to raise themselves up, or at worst, be raised up to the level of women. Because you've only got two options, men or women.
That spread a negative and damaging message.
Which, of course, you are completely innocent of doing in the course of this talk.
Then we imagine and hold in our mind's eyes what we really and truly crave from men in our hearts. Warriors for love, high integrity agents for the planet.
Because men can't possibly already have these notions in their head. Individual men. Now, we have to shepherd men towards these goals because they don't know how to do it themselves, obviously.
Highly involved fathers and community leaders.
Yeah, because, prior to this, men don't know how to be highly involved fathers or community leaders. They need to be led towards that ability because they don't possess it of their own volition. Got it.
Trustworthy and loving partners.
All men are scum, guys. They can't be trusted. They need to be led to being trustworthy.
I can't tell you how many men in my coaching practice tell me that their partners don't give them any verbal appreciation for the money they generate for the household, the support they give in the way of strength and direction, or their unwavering devotion.
Gosh, it's almost like they're being taken for granted or something because they're men. That's just expected of them. Those roles that you say are so deteriorating amongst men, except for the expectations of women. Okay.
How can we inspire greatness in men and the love we desire as women if we treat men as disposable and unworthy of our gratitude and appreciation?
I don't know. Maybe stop categorizing them reflexively as bad people and flawed human beings? Maybe?
When we can't even utter the words, "Thank you, sweetheart." Alison Armstrong, the author of Understanding Men.
Alison Armstrong, Understanding Men. Again, as I said at the beginning of this, I would be very curious to know the reaction of the modern feminist movement, the modern Me Too movement, to have a man stand on a stage, declare that they know how to understand women. What kind of reaction or reception would that receive? Might I ask?
Says that there are women who transform frogs into princes.
Oh! Right, the princess and the frog. Yeah. Men need the woman to become the good person. And it's not necessarily untrue. Until someone has to find out what it means to love someone else, to protect someone else, to have someone to care about and who cares about them, there is an evolution there. I'm not going to deny it. It's true. It's absolutely true. But this is a human experience. It is not something that men inherently lack and require a woman to learn how to do, or vice versa.
And those who turn princes into frogs.
Yeah, there are women who do the opposite and denigrate men into oblivion. I'm kind of surprised you didn't spend more time criticizing the female stereotype of taking men for granted or denigrating men, or how the society right now is doing so and making it sound like a virtue.
I ask the women here to ask yourselves, are you a lover of men or a frog farmer?
Ooh, okay. Okay. I mean, a little bit of fair play, even if it took the entire talk to get to it. But okay.
Do you empower the masculine or emasculate the men in your life with anger, resentment, and criticism?
Well, I mean, if we're talking about you, oh dear speaker, you've kind of done both. You've offered a hand of help, a hand of sympathy, while at the same time reinforcing that there is an inherent flaw in men. And again, like someone suggested in the chat, maybe this is some kind of transitional pitch to the dyed-in-the-wool man-haters to try to ease them towards a less inherently critical view of men. Maybe that's the case. I'm not exactly in a place to tell necessarily. I can't read her motives. But all the same, coming into this as I did, completely blank, it's been awfully tilted towards assuming the inherent flaw of men while offering men a sympathetic ear.
I advocate that it be our mission to inspire greatness in all men by recognizing and acknowledging their potential to love and do good in the world.
Their potential. Right.
And by opening our hearts as ambassadors and healers for the masculine.
You're speaking to women who are inherently healers. Okay.
Not only at home, not only with the men who belong to us.
The men who belong to us. Again, if there was a man standing on a stage talking about the women who belong to us, oh, patriarchy, domestic slavery, ownership, you wouldn't hear the end of it.
But for men everywhere in the world.
Okay. Well, that was it, I guess. Well, if you couldn't tell, a bit of another frustrating sojourn on my part. Not quite sure where that was going or what it was meant to do, but I don't feel particularly healed. I don't feel particularly empathized with. But what about you guys? I've talked plenty. It's time for you guys to get your input in for the next few minutes before I wrap this up. So if you have comments or questions or insights or observations about what we just heard or anything else, put them in the chat now. If you've said something previously in the chat that I'm missing because I don't see it now, please repost it because I've been very focused on our speaker. Hoggitus Maximus Scribelight, as that went on, I am more and more convinced she's talking to radical feminists. That may be. I mean, it could be that this is some kind of let me ease you into a different perspective while still giving lip service to the most extreme beliefs. That could be the case. I will allow for the possibility that's the case. But not knowing what her intention was or what her, target audience was meant to be, I can only take it on its face. So I'll allow for the possibility that this was not geared towards men specifically, but to an ideology abstractly. Okay. Let's see. Kieverdam said, I said something before the stream started, then fell asleep. Sorry. Hi, Kieverdam. Let's see. Butt ass says, take the clothes off. She might be a saggy Susan. Jesus. Angela Arriaga says, I am hopeful that she's a mole trying to get people to start thinking about the possibility of being wrong. I guess so. Again, I'll stipulate to the possibility, but some of the things she said in there were just sort of like still reinforcing the stereotypes that fuel the whole men are inherently evil thing. I mean, we see men as killers, as rapists, as warmongers. And while that may be true, it was that part, as you heard me, still reinforcing it. And it's okay. So maybe this was on the let's de-escalate the situation. This was an 8 rather than a 5 on the scale down towards let's calm down a bit. Okay, entirely possible. Let's see. Nothing for you here. She's got clear signs of aging a lot. Are you guys really assessing her appearance? Boy, oh boy. I mean, I could say some things, I suppose, but they'd be meaningless. Like I said before, when it comes to stuff like this, and I truly mean this, you argue the point and not the person. You know, unless she brings up something inherently about herself or her education or something into her argument, it is meaningless. Everything else is extraneous. You know, to find out after the fact that, you know, her career is counterproductive to what she was preaching or something, that can be interesting. But I take these things as they're presented to me. If they bring up the fact that they are a lawyer or a professor or a business expert or something, then I am permitted to take that little notion and set it up against what they have to say. Elsewise, how they appear, their age, meaningless. Meaningless. Sorry to get preachy, but that's just how I operate. Haywire of Elbow, describe like, why didn't you touch you bully's house? Why didn't you touch your bully's house? Touch my bully. Is that some kind of like Scottish slang? I don't know. Let's see. Maniac Man 2030. If I'm a frog, can I be a poisonous one? That way I can be really toxic. Yeah, you want to be a, was it a poison arrowhead frog? I think that's what they're called. Poison arrowhead frogs. Or just arrowhead frogs. I forget. But yeah, there are actually poisonous frogs out there. Sarah Jim says, Scribelight, there's a reason she wore that dress. I'm still dubious that there was actually a live audience there, that the applause we were hearing wasn't canned. Because like I say, there were no incidental noises throughout that entire talk, and the applause started really fast when she reached her end point. I'm pretty sure she was there all by herself or with just the cameraman. Faithful says, just poison arrow frog. Okay, poison arrow frog. Gunfox61, well, Scribe, there is a reason men made paper bag and groceries is a extra. Paper bag. I'm obviously missing something. You're talking about putting a bag over her head or something? I don't know. Angela Ariga says, if you jump straight into, but that's not true, you've put yourself into direct opposition rather than presentation. Okay, again, I'm willing to admit to the possibility that this was, like I say, a transitional argument against the most radical of man-hating perspectives. Okay. But that wasn't explicitly stated. She was talking about reimagining masculinity. She didn't mention much about how radical feminism or Me Too may have gone too far. There was a little bit of it, but I don't know. Like I say, I'm willing to admit to the possibility that this was not aimed at me. This was not aimed at men in general, or men who feel as though they've been victimized by this constant hate parade. I'll admit to that. But like I say, I take it as I see it. Let's see. Haywire of Elbow, Scribe, why didn't you torch your bully's house? Well, because you see, Haywire of Alba, unlike the stereotypes about my gender, I'm not inherently violent or a murderer. I kind of just decided at one point, I'm going to grow up to be a person who is completely unlike those who were bullying me. I'm not going to give in to becoming sour at the behest of other people's actions. At least sour towards other people who don't deserve it, kind of thing. But you know, it's on a gradient. The Luke Skywalker 2, from my perspective, that was certainly a ride. It was a ride. I mean, obviously, you heard me going off at length, and I really do hope. I want to say this, you know, for any confusion, I really do hope that in her heart of hearts, she was trying to perform as a transitory argument away from out and out hate and gradually towards men aren't inherently bad. The problem I have is that a lot of the messaging in there still reinforced a belief that men are inherently flawed, that men are intrinsically geared towards negative actions. And yes, there was some critique, mild, soft critique against, the stereotypical man-hating woman or taking men for granted in certain instances. So sure, it's possible. But then, if I wasn't reacting as I felt in the moment, I don't know how entertaining this would be. Humble Clay says, make sure to hit like. Yes, please do hit like. Subscribe if you like this kind of stuff. And trust me, I'm just doing this live stuff while the lockdown is on because I find myself, it's a lot easier to do this than a lot of scripted content. But if you like scripted content, oh boy, check out my playlist, check out the rest of my channel. If you think my TEDx live talks are a little off kilter, I've got hours and hours of TEDx and TED Talks from the past that I scripted and thought about thoroughly before I wrote them down and recorded, all in the playlists. Check out the playlist tab and then click on created playlists because they hide some of them. I got all types of stuff. If you like anything that I'm doing here off the cuff, trust me, my scripted stuff is probably a lot more concise and clean than this. And also, I should say, if you do decide to share the stream or any of my content, please do tag me in your tweets, as Twitter is really the only social media I use with any regularity. Be sure to put a preceding period in a tweet if you just tag me first, because otherwise only I'll see it. Because I do like to know that people are sharing my stuff. And when you do, I do want to have the opportunity to thank you for it, because I do appreciate that. That one service standing. Wow, can't believe you exposed Scribelight like that, Scribelight. What did I do? I've got a pepper jack in me, so I might have already forgotten something. Check Your Logic says the live content feels like scripted content. Well, if nothing else, I'd like to say and like to think that that exemplifies the fact that the stuff that you see that I've scripted is really from the heart. It's not crafted particularly. I may revise stuff that I say a little bit to make it, more clear, more concise when it comes to scripting things. But what you see in my videos and my scripted content is really me. It's really what I'm thinking in the moment as I'm watching that stuff or considering it after the fact. My conclusions at the end of some of my videos where I sort of have a final message or a final, summary or something, those may be a bit more thought through. They're not nearly as reflexive as some of the stuff previous, but yeah, this is just me. This isn't an act. I'm not wearing a mask. As far as I know, I'm sure a psychologist would argue against it. Faithless says, Scribelight was looking for Lords of the Night Tuesday, March 24th. It is missing from your library. Do you still have it? Was it destroyed? March 24th, Tuesday. I may have switched nights with somebody. I don't know. Check Monkey and Satsu. It might be the possibility that I switched nights with someone for some reason, so they could have it as their birthday or something. And I don't know. There are a few instances where I'm not doing my own night unless I'm switching. Sorry, Jim says, Scribelight, your live stuff is really more fun. Well, thank you. Thank you, Jim. That one service Tanya, you ruined my illusion. Now I'll know that your scripted content is scripted and inherently consider it bad because it's somehow bad. Oh, okay. I can't do anything about that. And Angela Arriaga, you're not wearing a mask, you're wearing a painting. Yes, I am indeed wearing a painting, a piece of wonderful, wonderful fan art by Knight of Charlemagne, who I credit in all of my videos. I don't know if I put his credit into the Lords of the Night stream, but regardless, in 90% of my videos, credit him because one day I was using the Wanderer Above the Sea Fog picture, which is a very famous painting, as my avatar for the longest time. And I mused quite often. It would be nice. I would love to have a interpretation of that painting where you actually see the guy in profile, and I would use that as my avatar. And Knight of Charlemagne He came through like nothing I could have possibly ever imagined or hoped for. It's amazing. I love it. So yeah, a lot of people have mistaken his fan art as the real thing. Like, I've seen that on the cover of Frankenstein. And I'm like, no, you haven't. But it is a excellent reimagining of a masculinity. But guys, I'm going to call it there. Thank you so much for joining me on this adventure. Whether it was inherently flawed or a transitory argument, just like men, you'll just have to assess it on its own merits individually. Everyone, have a good rest of your Sunday. Thank you for your attendance. Thank you for your participation. And everyone who donated, thank you so much for your generosity, especially in this insane time that we live in. I will use it towards horrible things I'll put in my body, like goldfish when I can, and pepper jacks, which I do. I hope you are all safe and well. If you're not well, please get well soon. And look for me tomorrow night on Satsu 2 Senses channel at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern for Lords of the Night, where myself, Satsu, and Ranting Monkey will go over the events of the day in our particular fashion. Everyone take care. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.